Hi and welcome to another weekly GMBN Tech show. Yep, I'm still here in Italy. We're just wrapping things up. So we thought we'd just finish up the show here and talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff we've seen this week. We've also dropped in some news and we've got some regulars from you guys. Okay, well, what a week it has been here in Val di Faso. We have seen some amazing racing, 2 stages of the EWS, the opening stages, back-to-back, furious racing on some ridiculously good tracks. As a result of that, we've seen loads of cool bike tech going on. Some of it new tech, some of it new style bikes with high pivots, and some of it just the bikes having a massive bias towards downhill setup. So the enduro bikes that you and I might buy in the shops, yeah, they resemble what the racers are using, but the racers' bikes are much heavier duty, and the weight of the bikes really does reflect that. So we were seeing most bikes averaging over 35 pounds and nearer 38 pounds for most of the fast bikes out there. Richie Rude's bike, for example, was just under 38 pounds, running full downhill casing tyres, downhill cush core in there, heavy duty wheels, even running Saint brake calipers on there. Everything possible to make that bike go as fast as he can and get to the bottom of the stages without letting him down. Now, it's very different to what you or I might buy in the shops, yeah? Because we're going to be looking for lighter, trail-friendly tyres so we can go and have fun on the bikes and get the most out of them. But let's not forget just how aggressive the mountain terrain is out here. Now, we've seen a lot of coil shocks this week, in particular coil shocks with a lockout activation on them. Because let's face it, the racers have to get up some pretty filthy climbs at times. We've even seen some modifications on the go. So on the Canyon team, Dimitri Tordo's bike, he was actually using the Spectral, which is the same bike I turned up with here to have a ride. Now the Spectral is a great trail bike. You could say it might get a little bit phased when you're pointing it down some of the bigger stuff, but the geometry and the layout of the bike really does allow it to descend quickly. But of course, just with the basic shock on there, can't quite keep up. So I spotted his with a RockShox Super Deluxe coil shock on there, and they were using the mount that's just under the top tube there to run a hydraulic or to run a lockout lever system, basically up to the handlebars, up through that top tube. Really cool system, but they literally put that on, not because the bike doesn't pedal well, because the climbs are so horrendous. You need all the help you can get to the top. We also saw the same on Isabel Cordura's bike. She's running the lockout on her handlebars, but on her one, she was actually using a twist lock on there. So kind of cool to see with the coil shocks. It's definitely something I want to actually explore on my Spectral because I love it being slightly shorter travel than the Enduro bike, and the geometry does let it really sort of gallop on when you want to push on. But yeah, the shock perhaps could deal with a little bit of improvements. I'm going to try a coil shock and see how I get on. Now, I don't think I'm going to go as far as downhill tyres in the UK though, because that is a pretty heavy thing to run on any bike unless you're descending on this sort of stuff. Now, we've seen a lot of racers having a bias towards the downhill setup, but there's also been racers having a bias towards a more, how should we say, forgiving setup. So a good example would be to use against each other here. We'll use Jesse Melamed and we'll use Connor Fearon. So Connor Fearon, he's the downhill racer. Downhill racer at heart, flat pedals, rides really aggressively, sets his bike up to be as strong as possible. He has not set his bike up for comfort in any way, and that's exactly what he's telling us. He's just like, I just want to plough through stuff as fast as I can, downhill wheels, downhill tyres, downhill cush core, all of that stuff. He just needs it to do the job. Whereas other racers, like Jesse Melamed, are very sensitive to the way that the bike handles and the vibration transmitted through to him. And the same thing actually with Isabel Cordura. She's running carbon bars, the zip wheels with that ankle flex on them, and even running push-on grips on handlebars, because every little step to reduce that vibration coming through saves energy. So really interesting to see 2 very different approaches to the way the riders are doing stuff. And of course, we've seen some new bikes emerging. We've seen that new Da Vinci prototype with a high pivot. We've seen the GT doing its rounds. Of course, we can't tell you any details because the bike doesn't technically exist yet, even though it's been raced. But it's a high pivot bike and it looks super planted from what we've seen with Noga out on course and Win Masters, of course, absolutely shredding. No Martin Mays, he's just had a child. So massive congratulations to Martin and his family there. But also there was the Norco bike. And the Norco, let's face it, that one looks more like a downhill bike than any of them. 63.25 degree head angle on there, 77 degree seat angle, long chain stays, 170mm travel, high pivot. I mean, that thing looks insane. I'd love to know what you think about how aggressive enduro bikes are going, because it definitely seems to me that there's a huge sway towards downhill performance, and the liaisons between stages seem to be far less. It didn't seem that uncommon for earlier EWS races to be like 60k days out with massive climbs, and the riders using lighter bikes, some of them using trail helmets and downhill helmets and switching between the two. Now it's definitely a bias to the downhill thing. Let us know what you think in the comments underneath. Okay, I'm going to teleport back to England now for news. Catch you there. Okay, yeah, so, well, that was strange. Filmed that out in the sun, and now I'm back here in the UK in quarantine. I've got my bike still in the bike bag. I've got to get it built up as soon as I've finished filming. Give the old girl a bit of love. Anyhow, let's crack on with news. So first up is something we spotted on Kickstarter. So we had a good look at this whilst we were traveling. Pretty cool stuff. So on the screen, you should be able to see the BrakeAce. Now, we have heard of this before floating around on Kickstarter, and we've heard it talked about, but this latest version is now wireless. So it uses an app, has a desktop app as well, one on your phone, and it communicates with sensors that are essentially in place of what would be your caliper mount, caliper adapters basically go on your brakes. So one slight downside before I tell you about the cool stuff, if your bike uses 160mm rotors, you'll have to have 180s in order to fit that caliper with the caliper mount with the sensor on there. So no biggie, essentially just means you can't run the smallest size rotors on your bike. But hey, you get better brakes, and if you're looking at a braking product, you probably want better brakes anyway, hey? So here's a load of shots of it on screen. So use this app, and one of the coolest things is it identifies key areas on a section of trail where you're braking the most, and it measures what they say the braking events into modulation, duration, and intensity. Indemnity, no, can't do that, can it? You can tell I'm a bit tired from the travels. But it's fascinating data, because essentially it measures how hard you're braking, how long you're braking for, where you're braking. So essentially it's free speed without having technically to get fitter, I guess you could say. Because let's face it, we all brake probably a bit more than we need to. I've always said, like, the top guys and girls out there on world scenes, whether it's enduro racing or downhill racing, is brake management. They're never like hard on the anchors. There's always fine tuning and adjusting speed. If that means people like us can get some of that action, I'm all for it. I think this is a great concept. It's going to be quite pricey though, but it's quite a specialist product. So early pricing of US $892 for a set of front and rear sensors and the app, delivered in January 2022. When the campaign is finished, oh, that's via Kickstarter of course. When the campaign is finished, BrakeAce will be available through the BrakeAce website. Now I do think this is really cool, because there's a number of different things out there. Of course, you've got ShockWiz, you've got TireWiz, you've got BrakeAce here. It could be a fantastic addition to really understand what's going on. So perhaps if you're a privateer racer, this could be the thing that you're looking for to really help take those times down, whether it's enduro stages or downhill racing. And I don't see why you couldn't sort of share this stuff around amongst mates if you all clubbed together and got something. I think it's really good, and I'd love to have a go on this because, well, I brake too much, just like the next person, and if it means I can go faster, well, sounds good to me. Okay, next up in news is it's another prototype from the Millyards. This is it on screen. So this is the Hyper Smooth Shock Model 3. Now look at the thing. So wow, what a unit. Loads of riding footage here. You should be able to see some clips of Stephen absolutely hauling on his common cell, running this shock. I love how it looks. It looks great. So different from the traditional coil shocks you tend to see on downhill bikes, and of course from traditional air shocks. Now I can't tell you too much about it at the moment other than what Stephen's told me. So he says it's a much improved model. It's got a 4x safety factor on the shaft speed, so there's no chance of the shock getting overworked. New seal technology in there, much smoother, much slicker action, and it can withstand up to 8,000 PSI. 8,000 PSI. I can't even get my head around this, so I'm going to go and see those guys very soon. So I'm in quarantine for the next 10 days, and I'm going to go see them at the first possible opportunity following that, and basically have a go on this shock. And I'm really hoping I don't have to ride Stephen's bike because I'm a bit taller than him. I'm kind of hoping that we can kind of get that shock on one of my bikes, or at least a version of the shock, because I just want to truly understand on a bike I'm familiar with what is going on. We showed some footage before of him riding his trail bike. I think it was a transition, and the back end just absolutely sticking to the ground like I've never seen on a bicycle before. Come to think of it, I've never seen the wheels sticking to the ground that well on anything before, other than a tank. But well, I think they know a thing or two about tank suspension from their earlier bikes. More information on the Millyard as soon as we can get outdoors and go and see it. Okay, and last thing in the news, this might disappoint some of you, but yeah, I'm gonna drop something on you here. It's a brand new Nukeproof and it's called the Megawatt. So if you remember a while back, I shared this photo when I borrowed Rob from Nukeproof. I borrowed his personal Mega, which I've actually still got. I'm going to send it back. And a few of you asked about the shape of that down tube, the way sort of it lurches forwards before it goes into the BB shell there. And a lot of you seem to think that it was suggestive of perhaps it could be developed into an e-bike, or perhaps they're designing the frame around the fact that they already had an e-bike prototype. Well, clearly it looked like they were thinking something along those lines, because this is the Megawatt. Yeah, and just back and forth here, so regular Mega and the Megawatt. You can see what they've done. So this thing looks awesome, and it's got a lot of similarities but a few differences. So first up, obviously it's got a Shimano EP8 motor and battery in there. There's two battery size offerings. All frames will accept both sizes, so there's a 580 watt hour and a 630 watt hour. So the comp model has the smaller battery, and the Elite and the factory model has models have the bigger battery size in there. Same layout as the Mega, so you've got a 4-bar suspension system. This one is actually configured to set up in a mullet style, so that means the smaller rear wheel on there, 27.5, the bigger 29-inch wheel up on the front there. But the chainstay length, because it's got a motor and a battery system, and because of the way you want the e-bike to be balanced, the chainstays are a little bit more reflective of what you would have seen on the 290s. I think there are 442mm chainstays. Same sizing as the Mega, so small through to extra large. So that is a 435 to 515mm reach. Touching on 78-degree seat angles, slightly steeper on the bigger sizes, on the large and extra large, at 78, and just a little under that on the smaller sizes. So it's kind of proportional with what they call saddle offsets. It's all about your position in relation to the BB shell, so quite a crucial thing as far as climbing goes, and of which you're going to be doing a lot of that on one of those bad boys. A few more shots on screen. So 64-degree head angle, proportional seat angle, like I've said. It's got lower anti-squat than the Mega. If you think the anti-squat really is to help resist movement against pedaling, you don't need that on an e-bike. And in fact, you actually want it to squat to a degree, like they've designed into this new Megawatt, because of the fact you can get all the traction to get that power down and climb up the ridiculous stuff. So super interesting there. 3 pricing options. I've got a comp, Elite and a factory. So UK pounds is what I have at the moment. So 5,000, 6,000 and 7,000 pounds, which actually, like the 5,000 pound comp, looks like a really good bike, to be fair. They're all made from 6061 aluminium. They look amazing, I think. 170mm travel on the rear end there. And they've got rearward axle bar for the first 50mm of that travel. So just to help sort of maintain your forward momentum when you're really cranking, so it didn't get stalled on those sort of square edge hits. I'm looking at the shots of it now. I think it looks really good. Considering most brands, when they launch their e-bikes, they're not always the best. Choose my words carefully there. They don't always look the nicest. It's really good that Nukeproof have just waited for the technology to be where they wanted to release their first e-bike. And this is it, the Megawatt. Love them or loathe them, e-bikes are here to stay. You know what, that one looks really good to me. What do you reckon? Would you ride a Megawatt, or would you prefer a Mega? Let us know in those comments underneath. Okay, we've got time for a bit of bike cave action now. You know the drill, it's a bike cave, it's where you keep your bikes. It could be a shed, it could be a workshop, it could be whatever you fancy. Send your pictures in, there is a link at the bottom of the screen right there. And let's get trucking straight into this one. So, first up, it's all the way from Canada. Bear with me, my internet's a little bit slow, just like I feel today, to be honest. So, this is for Wayne in Canada. I turned one of me into a bike cave. I guess what you mean is you've got a big bike cave. 10 bikes, over 15 pairs of Marzocchi Bomber 888s in there. Oh my good God. Let's have a look at this. Oh, you're not even joking, are you? So there's an original set there with the little gold top caps on there, with adjustable compression on them. Direct mounts. Oh, you've got a pair on a giant STP there. In fact, there's 2 STPs. You like your Marzocchis's and you like your giant STPs. What's next to that? I can't quite see the head tube badge. It looks like it might be a Norco to me. My God, you've got a lot of bikes racked up there. Kenda K-Rad tyres on there, or Maxxis Hookworm? I can't remember. Can't remember the dirt jump tyres. I have to ask Toff that. It's not really my sort of bag these days. I'm a bit old and not very flexible to do that sort of riding. A couple of mountain cycles hardtails, 3 mountain cycles hardtails in a row there. Who has 3 mountain cycles and 2 giant SCPs? Except for you, clearly. Awesome setup though. I love the fact you've got them all racked up, ready to ride there. Plenty of cool period stuff on those. Sun MTX rims, Sun double tracks. Those things were like absolutely monstrously strong. I've still got somewhere a 24-inch double track with a 3-inch intense tyre on one. Could never get it off. It had like the 4-ply casing, the thickest, most gnarly tyres of all time. Literally couldn't get it off, so it's still on there. It's floating around in someone's loft. I can't remember whose. Could be here, could be my dad's. I'm not really sure, but pretty cool stuff. Next up is from Carl in Georgia, USA. Bought a new house a couple of years ago, and it has boat storage area in the basement. Who needs boats? This is a perfect area for my shop and bike storage. Easy to get in and out of, and my cars can still be in the garage. Bikes in photo are a Trek Fuel EX 9.8, a 1998 Schwinn World Sport single speed, Trek Domain SL5, very nice, Trek 1120 built up as a single speed, and a Surly Karate Monkey. Oh, and a 1976 Univega. Man, you got some cool stuff tucked in here. Nice park works down there, swivel vice out the way, pegboard, back wall there. Is that a rubber mat or is that old carpet you got under? Well, either way, it doesn't matter, doesn't it? It's something good to put under your work stand. Compressor by the looks of it too. Loads of good stuff in there. Yeah, there's your workbench at the back there with all your tools on the wall. You've even got a spoke tension meter, which suggests you build, or at least you're very good at truing wheels. So that's great to see. So you really are into your bike mechanics. Great stuff. Trusty orange mallet on the left there. Shop towel holder. Got everything. Dialed. Like it. And the last one, we've got an extra one this week. So this one's from Dan in Minnesota. When you live in an apartment, you need to make use of the space you have. Damn right. Been there, done that. I know exactly where you are. I mean, you could have had a smaller bike, to be fair. You've got a fat bike, living in an apartment. Those things take up a lot of room. Super neat solution though. Like it. So you've got them both vertically on the wall there. I can't see any tyre marks on the wall, so I'm hoping for your wall's sake you've got something under the tyres. Spare tyres hanging up at the top there, looking good. And you've got all your riding gear on the wall as well. Yeah, it's a really good use of space. Great stuff. Thank you everyone for sending in your bike caves. More of that next time. Okay, so now let's jump into Rewind. I wasn't going to put Rewind on the show just because it's been so hectic getting back from Italy, but I had something through the post, and just seeing this envelope come through the post, I had to open this before. I was going to unbox it sort of live. Sender, Kelly, Charles Kelly, Charlie Kelly. Yeah, Charlie Kelly has sent me something. My God, I'm so excited about this. Check this out. So, Charlie Kelly, as well as technically inventing downhill mountain bike racing with the time trial with the synchronised stopwatches, the early start of mountain biking movement, he was also the editor of Fat Tire Flyer, and he sent me some vintage Fat Tire Flyers. So I've got February, March 1985 to look at there. Oh, look at the artwork on this one. So July 1985, Volume 5, Number 3. That is an amazing cover. Oh, look at the advert for Ritchie mountain bikes on the back there as well. Look at that, so cool. What we've got here, May 1985. Oh man, I'm going to go down a right rabbit hole. I'm going to be reading these later on. Bicycle Dealer Edition. Now that looks sick. Looking forward to that. Oh, this could be like a old school version of me. January, February 1984 with Little Man on board as well. Great stuff, and a couple more retro ones too to boot. I can't believe I'm in touch with people like Charlie Kelly and Gary Fisher. I worked in the bike industry a long time, and I've spoken to many people, but I think it's only in recent years when it feels like my career's kind of gone full circle a bit. I fully appreciate some of the people I talked to. Charlie, if by chance you see this, thank you so much for your time when we had a chat recently, and thank you even more for sending these over yourself. This is so cool to see. I can't wait to show you all a bit more what's in here. But if you want to get hold of some of these, check out Fat Tire Flyer Europe on Instagram. They've got a shop, you can get really cool mugs. In fact, I bought one of these ages ago. Love the colour, love the mug. I've never actually used it, I just wanted it as a bit of decoration just because I really like the brand. I love the fact it was like one of the earliest, probably the earliest mountain bike magazine. Super interesting stuff. Probably going to be sharing a bit of that stuff on Instagram once I get reading. But thank you again, Charlie, and please, everyone, have a look at Fat Tire Flyer Europe on Instagram and help them out a bit. They've got some awesome stuff. Well, there we go. There's another GMBN Tech show for you. Been a crazy week on the road here. Learnt loads of stuff at EWS 1 and 2 in Val d'Ifasa. And I can't wait actually to get out to another EWS and see what else we can get for the Tech channel. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we'll see you next week. Ta-ra.